The Chongzhen version of the embroidered portrait of the plum in the golden vase. Chapter 4. Go into Wushan to have fun with Pan's family, causing Brother Yen to be indignant at the tea house. The poem says, the slanting light enters the embroidered door of Xuan's boudoir, and her daughter stands leaning against the door. Although the beautiful eyes of Hengbo come later, the stockings are far away. I heard that I was avoiding people at the beginning of this year, so Shanshan hung the mirror with her. I would like to have the servant to have a blind date under the tent in the back hall, for the sake of Taoism. When Mrs. Wang went out with the money, she smiled broadly at the woman and said, I'll go to the street to get a bottle. Madam, please sit down with the officials. There's wine in the bottle. If there's nothing left, sift a few more. Janer, while eating with the senior officials, I went straight to County Street, where there is good wine, and bought a bottle. I was delayed for a long time. After hearing this, the woman said, Don't go, godmother. Nuju, there's no need for it anymore. The old woman said, Madam, you are not a high official. I have nothing to do but have a meal with you. What's the matter? The woman said, No need, and she sat down but didn't move. The mother-in-law pulled the door shut, tied it with a rope, and locked the two of them in the house. When the road sat down, one end was locked. When the woman saw Wang Po gone, she pulled her chair aside and sat down, but only peeked at her. Simon King was sitting opposite, looking at him with salivating eyes, and then asked again, You just forgot to ask your wife's surname? The woman lowered her head and replied with a smile, My surname is Wu. Simon King pretended not to hear and said, The surname is Du? But the woman turned her head away, smiled, and whispered, You are not deaf. Simon King laughed and said, Bah, I forgot. His surname is Wu, but there are very few people with the surname Wu in King County. There is only a 3-inch ding selling cakes in front of the county named Wu Daling. How dare he belong to the lady family? The woman heard this and said, Then his face turned red. He lowered his head and said with a smile, He is the slave's husband. After hearing this, Simon King remained silent for a long time, dumbfounded, and pretended to lose his voice. The woman smiled, glanced at him sideways, and said in a low voice, You have not been wronged. So why are you calling me Kali? Simon King said, I call you Kuli on my wife's behalf. But Simon King said that the wife is older than the wife, and the wife is short, only care about Baikao. While the woman was lowering her head to fiddle with her skirt, she was biting the cuff of her shirt again, making a rattling sound, and she glanced at him sideways. Simon Qingtui was so hot that he took off his green gauze pleats and said, Please help me put it on the godmother's bed for me. The woman just bit her sleeves and stopped turning them. He laughed and said, You can't break it with your own hands. How can you give orders to others? Simon King said with a smile, The lady doesn't lay it down with the villain, but the villain wants to lay it down by herself. As he reached out across the table and put it on the bed, I deliberately flicked the table and the chopstick fell, but it was fate, and the chopstick just fell under the golden lotus skirt. Simon King poured wine to persuade the woman, but the woman smiled and ignored him, but he waited for him to pick up the chopsticks and let him eat the vegetables. I looked around and couldn't find one. Jin Lian lowered his head, kicked his toes, and said with a smile, This is not your chopsticks. Simon King heard that he walked past Jin Lian and said, So here it is. He knelt down and said after picking up the chopsticks. He took off the toe of his embroidered shoes and pinched them. The woman started to laugh and said, What's wrong with that? I'm going to scream. Simon King knelt down and said, My wife, I'm so sorry for this little man. As he said this, he touched him. Pants. The woman spread her hands and said, You are such a crooked bastard. But I want to beat you with a big ear scraper, Simon King said with a smile. My wife got some benefits from beating the villain to death, so she couldn't help but hug the king. On the mother-in-law's bed, we took off our clothes and belts, and had fun together. But he said that since this woman hooked up with Zhang Dahu, this old man is as soft as snot and pus as sauce. How can he be so happy? Even if you are married to Wuhan University. Just think about it. How much power can a 3-inch thing have? Now I meet Simon King, a man who has been accustomed to romance for a long time and is very capable. How can I not be happy about it? But see, The mandarin ducks with their necks crossed are playing in the water, and the phoenixes are piercing the flowers, happy to work hard to connect the branches, sweet, and tie the knot together. One presses her red lips closely, and the other presses her pink face sideways. The stockings are tall and there are 2 crescent moons on the shoulders. The gold hairpin is leaning down and a dark cloud is piled beside the pillow. The oath of alliance between the mountains and the sea makes the girl beautiful in all kinds of ways. The shy clouds and the rain make the girl enchanting in all kinds of ways. The chirping of a warbler never leaves my ears. The saliva is sweet, and the tip of the tongue is stuck out with laughter. Willow's waist veins are strong in spring, and Cherry's mouth is slightly wheezing. The starry eyes are dim, and the delicate sweat is flowing on the fragrant jade. The breasts are rippling, and the peony heart is dripping with dew. The marriage is harmonious, and the affair is really delicious. Illustrations from the Chongzhen edition of Plum and the Golden Ping. At that moment, the 2 of them had just stopped and were about to straighten their clothes when Wang Po opened the door and came in. She made a fuss, clapped her hands, and said in a low voice, "You two have done a good job." Simon King and the woman were both surprised. The old lady then said to the woman, Okay, I asked you to make clothes, and I never asked you to steal men. Your Wu Daling knows that he must implicate me. Why don't I go and tell Wu Da first?" He turned around. Walk. The woman grabbed her skirt in panic, lowered her head with a red face, and had to say, "Godmother, forgive me." Wang Po then said, "You all must do one thing to me. From today on, you will hide it from Wuhan University. If you don't come every day, you will lose the favor of the high official. If I tell you to come early in the morning and come in late in the evening, I will give up. If you don't come for one day, I will tell you Wu Da." The woman was so embarrassed that she was almost embarrassed. "Can't say it anymore," Wang Po urged. "What's going on? Answer me quickly." The woman turned her head and whispered, "Just come." Wang Po said again, "Master Simon, you don't need to be old. It's true that this very good thing has come to an end. Don't break your promise with what you promised. If you betray your heart, I will also tell Wuhan University." Simon King said, "Don't worry, Godmother, you have not broken your promise." The mother-in-law said, "You every time to people speak without proof. They have to leave a note and hold it, so that they can see the true love." Simon King pulled out a gold hairpin from his head and inserted it into the woman's bun. The woman had taken off her sleeves. "I'm afraid Wu Da might see her and get suspicious when she gets home." The woman refused to bring anything else out, but Mrs. Wang pulled her sleeve and took out a Hangzhou white crepe sweat towel, which she snatched away from Simon King and kept. The 3 of them had a few more glasses of wine, and it was already afternoon. The woman stood up and said, "Slave, please go home." Then she left Wang Po and Simon King behind and walked back through the back door. I went to lower the curtain first, and Wu Da happened to come in. Let's say that Wang Po looked at Simon King and said, "Is it a good trick?" Simon King said, "I've lost my godmother." "What a good trick?" Wang Po asked again. "How is this girl Feng Yu?" Simon King said, "Luxury. You can't talk about your children." The mother-in-law said, "The girl who played and sang in her room was born, and she soon got used to knowing everything. It's a shame that I managed to marry you two as husband and wife by force. The things you promised me, don't give up. Forget it." Simon King said, "I will get the money and send it to you when I get home." Wang Po said, "Look at the Jingji flag and listen to the good news. Don't hand me over to ask for money from the elegy man when the coffin is out." Simon King smiled. "Seeing no one on the street, I put on my gauze. Not a problem." The next day, I came to Mrs. Wang's house again to ask for tea. Wang Po offered to sit down and quickly ordered tea. Simon King took out an ingot of 10 taels of silver from his sleeve and handed it to Wang Po. For all people in the world, money can move people's hearts. When the woman saw the snowflake silver with her black eyes, she happily accepted it and said 2 blessings in a row. "Thank you so much for your charity, officials." So she said to Simon King, "We haven't gone out to Wuhan University this evening. I'll wait until I go there." I borrowed the ladle from her house and took a look. He walked past the woman's house through the back door. The woman was sending Wu Da to eat in the room. When she heard the door call, she asked Yinger, "Who is it?" Yinger said, "It's Grandma Wang who's here to borrow a ladle." The woman hurriedly welcomed him out and said, "Godmother, you have a ladle. Take it, please sit at home." The woman said, "There is no one there," because he gestured to the woman. The woman knew that Simon King was coming. The mother-in-law took the ladle and went out, encouraged Wu Die to eat, and went out carrying the burden. First, he went upstairs to ray makeup, put on a new set of colorful clothes, and told Yinger, "How Sheng looks after the house. I'll go sit down at your grandma's house and come back. If your father comes, let me know. If you don't listen to me, I'll kill you, little bitch." Yinger agreed without question. The woman walked through Wang Po's tea house. Exactly, albizia, peaches and apricots make people smile in spring, but they actually have ulterior motives in their hearts. There is a word that is a double entendre. This ladle is a ladle, with a small mouth and a big body. When you were young, you grew up in the spring breeze shed and grew taller. When you grow up, it will be difficult for anyone to take care of you. How could he be willing to stay in the poverty-stricken and happy way and focus on taking advantage of the east wind to float on the water? I used to feed him in a stable and call him in the tea house, but now Zuyu doesn't want it. What medicine is sold in the gourd of the black hole at the equator? When Simon King saw the woman coming, she seemed to be falling from the sky, and they sat side by side with their legs folded. While Mrs. Wang ordered tea, she asked, "What did Wu Jie ask when I came home yesterday?" The woman said, "He asked my godmother if she had made the clothes. I said that she had made the clothes, and I also made shoes and socks for her as a gift." After saying that, the mother-in-law quickly arranged for wine to be served and placed in the room, and the two of them drank together. Simon King looked at the woman carefully and found that she was more beautiful than when he first met her. After drinking wine, the pink face showed red and white, and the two long hairs on the temples were drawn. Duan is equal to the gods and better than Chang'e. Touching red and white flesh color, lovely skirt and hairpin. The skirt is trailing an emerald gauze shirt, and the sleeves are tied with mud gold belts. Zizi Bao's bun is tilted. Just like in the moon, Chang'e comes to the next world, and it is difficult to buy it without spending 1,000 gold. Simon King couldn't praise him enough, so he held him in his arms and lifted up his skirt. He was very happy to see his little feet wearing old crow satin shoes, which were just halfway up. We drank wine with him one by one, and talked with him mockingly. The woman asked Simon King whether Zhang was noble, and Simon King told him, "I was 27 years old, and I was born on the 28th day of the 7th month." The woman asked, "How many ladies are there in the family?" Simon King said, "Except for me, my wife, and 3 or 4 people around me, but none of them suit me." The woman asked again, "How many brothers?" Simon King said, "She is just a little girl. She will get married sooner or later, and she has no children." Simon said King asked mockingly, then took out a fragrant tea and osmanthus cake wrapped in silver and gold from his sleeve, and delivered it to the woman with the tip of his tongue. The two hugged each other and made a sound. The old woman only went back and forth to fetch vegetables and sift wine, while she went to mind his own business, leaving the two of them to have fun in the room. After eating for a while, the wine was rich, and without realizing it, Simon King's heart was roused, and he revealed the words on his waist, which attracted the woman to touch it with her delicate hands. It turned out that Simon King had often raised his mother-in-law in 3 streets and 4 alleys since he was a child, and he still carried a tray made of silver and medicine under his roots. Those words were very big, with red, and black beards, straight and hard. And a good thing, an object is always 6 inches long, sometimes soft and sometimes hard. Soft like a drunken man pouring things over, hard like a wind monk going up and down wildly. It is the ability to leave the female body and enter the yin. And the Yaozhou navel is the hometown. He was born with 2 sons and carried them with him. He had several fights with beauties. After a while, the woman took off her clothes. Simon King felt that there was no hair on the female door, just like white and fluffy. Fermented steamed buns, soft and thick, red crepe fruit filling. It is really a beautiful thing that thousands of people love and thousands of people covet. Warm, fragrant and dry, mouth salient. It is the most pitiful thing that can be soft or soft. If you are happy, you will stick out your tongue and smile. If you are sleepy, you will sleep with your buttocks pressed against you. In the inner crotch county is the family business, and on the edge of the thin grass is the hometown. If you meet a romantic and handsome man, you can easily fight without speaking. Stop talking nonsense. Since that day, the woman has been coming to Mrs. Wang's house every day to be with Simon King. Her kindness is like lacquer and her kindness is like glue. Since ancient times, there has been a saying, good things never go out, and bad things spread thousands of miles. In less than half a month, everyone in the neighborhood knew about it, and only Wuhan University was kept secret. Exactly, knowing that one's duty is to make a living, one has the heart to guard against treachery and evil. The words are divided into two parts. Let us say that there is a young man in this county who is 15 or 16 years old. His surname is Kiao. He was born and raised in Yunzhou because he was a soldier, so he named him Brother Yun. There is only one father in the family, who is very old. The boy was a good boy. He had always relied on selling the latest fruits in the many hotels in front of the county, and Simon King Fu often gave him some money. That day I was looking for a basket of snow pears, and I took it round the street to look for Simon King. Another group of people said, Brother Yen, if you want to look for him, I will teach you a place to go. Brother Yen said, tell me, uncle, who is going to find him? The group of people said, let me tell you. The wife of Wu Da, who sells cooking cakes on Simon Kingwa Street, only sits in Wang Post house on Zishi Street every day. We will only stay there for a long time. It's okay to just bump into your kid's house. After hearing this, Brother Yen thanked the man, picked up the basket, walked straight to Zishi Street, and ran into Wang Po's tea house. But just when he saw Wang Po sitting on a small stool, Brother Yen put down the basket, looked at Wang Po and said, Godmother, hello. The old woman asked, Brother Yen, what are you doing here? Brother Yen said, I am looking for a high-ranking official to earn 30 or 50 yuan to support my father. The mother-in-law said, what kind of high-ranking official? Even high-ranking officials have names, he said. Brother Yen said, it's just a characters, the mother-in-law said. What do characters? Brother Yen said, my godmother is just playing tricks. I want to have a word with Mr. Simon. He looked inside and laughed. The old woman grabbed her and said, where is this little monkey going? Every house has its own inside and outside. Brother Yen said, I'll find it when I go to the room. Wang Po scolded, little Hanwu prisoner, why am I begging for a high-ranking Simon official in my house? Brother Yen said, don't eat alone, godmother, and sip some juice with me. Why should I ignore it? The mother-in-law then scolded, you little prisoner, damn, what are you paying attention to? Brother Yen said, you are busy chopping vegetables in a wooden ladle with a horse hoof knife. The water will not leak out. If you ask me to tell you, I am afraid that the brother who sells cooking cakes will have an attack. The woman eats him. These two sentences said that he was really sick, and he was furious in his heart. He yelled, the little hosen with black hair also comes to my mother's house to fart. Brother Yen said, I am the little hosen, and you are Ma Boliu, the old dog meat who takes the lead. The woman grabbed Brother Yen and struck two chestnuts on him. Brother Yen shouted, what are you doing to beat me? The mother-in-law scolded, you little hosen who is fucking my mother. If you dare to raise your voice, I will beat you up with a big-eared scraper. Brother Yen said, the thief always bites insects. Hit me if you have nothing to do. The old lady threw a crossbow and a huge chestnut into the street, throwing the pear basket as well. The basket of Sydney fell into pieces and rolled away. This little monkey couldn't beat the godly woman. He scolded and cried while walking away, picking up pears on the street. He pointed at Po Wang's tea house and cursed, old bitch, don't panic when I tell you. I won't do anything with him. Don't believe it. Your appearance will definitely be ruined, and you won't be able to make any money. The little monkey picked up a basket and ran down the street to look for this person. Viewed exactly, overturning grass in the lonely rabbit's nest, startling the mandarin ducks to sleep on the sand.
Alright, this part of the story ends here. Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.